We'll give Senator Ludlam a few minutes. So Senator Ludlam has the floor.
I'll see you with the Chief Scientist. Can you give me a
Change
call?
of pace.
Yes, sir.
Could you give us a call perhaps 20 minutes before you expect him? Is that all right?
They'll come to a call very quick.
So,
Which is, I was just curious about that.
so Chair, can we just
Yes.
bring forward the officers who are charged with progressing the National Radioactive Waste Facility?
Certainly, you have the call. If you,
I'm just seeking to bring the officers forward who have got carriage of the National Radioactive Waste Facility. Hello and welcome back to the New World Order. Could you just give us a bit of an update of what your work plan looks like at the moment, given the change of government and the process that was recently announced by the Resources Minister?
Thank you, Senator. I did introduce myself this morning, but Tanya Constable, Head of the Resources Division. The department just recently went out to tender for a first stage business case for a radioactive waste facility. That business case is to examine all of the options available to the government in radioactive waste. A preferred tenderer has now been chosen. That preferred tenderer is SKM.
Yep.
They are required to report back on the business case by the first quarter of 2014. The initial business case will outline and confirm the business needs for a safe radioactive waste management solution, including construction costs and proposed project delivery strategy, compare construction options against other options, including a do-nothing option, overseas waste management options and expansion of current waste management facilities, and we'll look at public-private partnerships. That's a requirement under the two-stage capital works program of Department of Finance.
Thank you. And I think it's worth acknowledging and putting on the record at this point that this is the first time in living memory that a government's had the courage to look at a range of options rather than just saying we're going to dump this out in the bush on a cattle station. So I think this minister should be acknowledged that while I've expressed some criticism, I guess, of the privatisation of the process, that it's just simply been outsourced, and we'll come back to that in a moment, you should be acknowledged for the fact that there are a range of options on the table, and that's what a lot of people have been asking for a long time. So that's... I just wanted to put that on the record. What degree of public consultation is there likely to be now that this work is underway?
Michael Sheldrick, General Manager of the Uranium Taxation and Radioactive Waste Branch. The initial business case tender process itself will be conducted. There won't be public consultation on that.
Sorry, that's just a tender process to work out who's going to do the work.
And the project, now that we've initiated the tender, and that will be conducted as Ms Constable said, through to June. That will be conducted without public consultation process.
And what happens once you've chosen somebody to then undertake that work?
Well, we have chosen someone, so that's the
That's what SKM is?
Yep.
So by the middle of next year, you'll have made a decision on, I guess there's 4 options broadly. So carry on what you're doing, don't do anything at all, expand the current facility, or what? Something else? Oh, overseas storage.
Overseas storage, that's correct.
But you're going to make your minds up completely behind closed doors as to which of those 4 should proceed?
When our SKM do their work, they will look at a range of options. There's been previous work done, of course, by Parson Brinkerhoff in the past. SKM will certainly consult with a range of stakeholders about the options that may be available. They will come back to the government in the first quarter of 2014. At that point, advice will be provided to government on what the preferred course of action may be, and of course then on what consultation may look like on that preferred option.
Okay, so, but consultation after you've made your minds up, we're going to need to come up with a different word for it, because it's not consultation. What's the point of consulting once you've already decided?
As I just said, SKM will confer with a range of stakeholders regarding the options that are there. They will need to do that to ensure that they have the full range of information available to them.
All right, good. Well, don't let me read you wrong, because that is consultation before the decision point is reached. That's important. So
yes.
What can you tell us about the stakeholders who will be consulted?
At this stage, so decisions have just been made regarding SKM becoming the preferred applicant in this process. The department is currently working with SKM in terms of the next steps and how they will go about this this project.
You might have. I think you answered a different question. So who will be consulted? Who do you consider a stakeholder? Where's the definition of that?
Relevant parties in terms of decision making. In the course of low-level, intermediate level waste, there is storage that is already occurring around Australia at the moment.
Yeah.
We would expect that SKM look at what has already occurred in terms of that consultation.
Yeah.
We would expect that SKM talk to the likes of ANSTO that have a certainly relevance in storage. They will talk to other overseas facilities about in the context of that storage. They will talk to the land councils around Australia, one of which has, of course, already offered a nomination in the Northern Land Council. And they will talk to governments regarding this matter. So there's a few of the stakeholders that we anticipate that conversations do occur with.
I reckon that's a pretty good start. What about, given that one of your options is expanding the existing facility at Lucas Heights, the Sutherland Shire, for example?
Yes.
They've been on your list?
Yes, of course.
Are people able to forward submissions to SKM, or does that envisage that people will be able to make submissions even if they're not formally approached?
We're not seeking submissions through this process. And just to elaborate a little bit further, a process, we spent a day with officials, with officers from the department yesterday and the consultants going through exactly this scoping of stakeholders and the threshold conditions that those stakeholders may have. And the Sutherland Shire and others, there was a very long list, were identified in that process.
Okay. Are you able to table that list for us?
No, I don't have that list, and it's still being worked through. So this was literally a whiteboarding exercise yesterday, and we will continue to work on that and refine it. It was one of those whiteboard type exercises.
All right, I won't ask you to table the whiteboard. When that list is complete, though, and you're prepared, you're drawing that up with SKM, right? That this is a collaborative
We're happy
process.
to table that list when it's completed.
When you're done. All right, that's much appreciated. Has the Commonwealth had, or its agencies, had any further discussion with other states, communities or jurisdictions over a potential site for a waste facility apart from the one that was nominated by the NLC?
No, we have not had any discussions with other states, Senator.
Other land councils?
No, Senator.
Okay. Other communities?
No, Senator.
Random submissions? Premier Colin Barnett?
There is always correspondence that is put forward to the department and to the government. We seek to try and talk to particular people when they do put forward submissions or want to have discussions. but we don't haven't actively sought those discussions out.
Well, your Act says you can, but you're telling me that you haven't. But have you actually received nominations from other parties of any kind for alternate sites, apart from what's in play at Muckaty?
No, Senator.
Okay, that's fine. That's consistent with what you've said in the past. What's the status, just briefly, what's the status of works to upgrade the storage capacity at ANSTO's existing Lucas Heights facility? Have formal works actually commenced there, or are you still in planning stage?
Could we take that on notice, Senator?
Probably I should have directed that to
Yes,
ANSTO, but
absolutely.
I missed them. But if there's any info you can provide us, I think ANSTO have left. What's the government's view? You can tell me if you're aware of a change of policy, otherwise I'll put this through you, Senator Ronson, on Australia hosting imports of international waste. As, for example, your principal Indigenous advisor, Warren Mundine, is proposing. I know he's not speaking for formal policy, but what is the government's policy?
Well, I can't answer that question for you. I don't know whether there's been a policy decision made. If there has, I'm happy to communicate that to you, but I can't otherwise answer your question.
I reckon there'd be an announcement. We probably both know of it, but if you're able to take that on notice.
Senator,
yep.
just as far as we are aware, there has been no change to previous statements that have been made regarding not taking international waste into Australia.
It's always worth checking though, isn't it? Can you just give us an update then from your point of view, from the Commonwealth's point of view, of the status of the existing Muckaty nomination?
The existing Muckaty nomination stands, Senator. You would be aware that that particular nomination is subject to a court case. A hearing has been set for next June 2014, and we're waiting. And both the Commonwealth Legal Counsel is currently going through the process of representing the Commonwealth in that court case.
Yep, all right.
Senator, I can add a little bit more detail, which you may be aware of.
I might have to speak up. There's a lot of chatter in the room. Sorry.
Senator, a little bit more detail you may be aware of. 10th of September, the applicants lodged their final application to the court, and so then that outlined their position and their supporting evidence, and that lodgement then provided the Commonwealth and the Northern Land Council the opportunity to submit their defence application, and that defence application was submitted on the 24th of September. And as Ms Constable said, the full trial is scheduled for June 2014.
Yep. Is it your understanding that... Oh, I can't ask you questions about court procedures. I'll let that go. Is it your understanding, and again, this might needed to have gone to ANSTO, but is your understanding that there are still shipments of spent fuel expected from Europe there's no change to that schedule as far as you're aware?
There's no change to that schedule, Senator.
Okay, thank you. The Minister, and this is going to get a bit surreal, congratulating the Minister twice in one session on matters of radioactive waste, but he did make an undertaking during the election campaign that he would visit the site and meet with some of those in and around Tennant Creek who've strongly opposed the Muckaty nomination. Do you have an update, or maybe through you, Senator Ronson, as to whether that trip has made it into the Minister's diary?
I haven't got access to his diary, as you understand, Senator, so I'm not sure whether the departmental officials or any...
Are you aware?
Any of the wires of it?
He has been talking about it, and I think it's just a matter of finding time.
It was a commitment undertaken before the end of the year, is my understanding. It'd be pretty good news for that mob if they were finally going to get a visit. And I'd also...
Well, I think the Secretary said it's under active consideration.
That's
so
good.
It wasn't a comment that was made and just forgotten. So.
Good. That's
and
good
it
to
is
know.
also a matter of making sure that the traditional owners who have to travel from afar, that they are available for the Minister to meet. So that request has been made to the traditional owners in terms of availability over the next couple of months.
All right, I recognise that sort of thing's quite difficult to organise, but we'll just impress on you that the commitment was taken pretty seriously by the people up there, and his visit is certainly anticipated.
Well, it looks to me it is
underway.
No, it is.
All right, look, I just close, I guess, as I began, this process that you've initiated is different to how things have been done in Australia before, certainly in my experience of this issue, under 3 different governments. The more open and transparent the process of consultation is, the more likely we are to actually be able to bring everybody along with us, rather than seeing the sort of pitched battles in the courts, in the capital cities and in the bush that we've seen in the previous decade or two. So I just encourage you to be as open as possible.
Probably take that as a comment, I think, rather than a question.
If we're going to have a Q&A moment, it was a comment rather than a question, Senator. Thanks, Chair.